LG knows a thing or two about building an impressive smartphone. From the original Optimus G to Google's Nexus 5 to the pixel-packed G3, the company's legacy is substantial. But still, it always seems to be a step behind the competition in some way or another. With its 2015 flagship, LG looks to change that, and it just might. I'm Michael Fisher with Pocketnow, and this is our video review of the LG G4. Small confession. I'm huge into leather smartphones. And while we've also checked out the plastic and ceramic versions of the G4, it's the leather one I've spent the most time with. And I'm glad. Above all, a smartphone's hardware should be comfortable, and the soft, full-grain leather on our brown G4 is just that, minimizing the harsh corners and giving the slightly curved phone nearly the same high-end feel as the Moto X. Though it's a shame LG didn't follow Motorola in going with a metallic side rail to bolster its premium cred. The result is exposed corners on the G4, which are already starting to discolor from what I can only guess is denim dye from taking it in and out of jean pockets. The center stitching seems durable enough though, doing a nice job of accentuating the rear key control collective while also providing a comfortable anchor point for the finger. And look, that beautiful back cover comes right off, meaning you can swap it for another flavor if you want. Also, rather than follow the competition in eliminating expandable storage and a removable battery, LG has retained both for the G4, making it the most extensible flagship on the market. Sadly, last year's G3 battery doesn't fit, even though it looks like it should, but this year's pack is just as beefy. 3,000 mAh for the global version, 2,900 for the T-Mobile US variant. That battery powers a 5.5-inch Quad HD display that builds on last year's successes and ferrets out some of the shortfalls. The new so-called Quantum IPS screen is more colorful, offers more contrast, and most importantly, it's 25% brighter than the G3's. It still wouldn't be my first choice for outdoor use in direct sunlight. Samsung's Galaxy S6 gets much brighter, but it's definitely an improvement over last year. And in moderate light, it's got some pretty beautiful colors going on. Power up that big display with the push of the rear key or a double tap on the cover glass, and you get a look at Android 5.1 with LG's new interface, which looks a lot like LG's old interface. You get a Smart Notice widget dead center of the home screen that flashes occasional bits of info. It'll now let you know if a certain app is drawing too much memory or battery power in the background, which is nice, but it doesn't do that often enough. More on that in a second. And mainly, it just serves to give you long-winded weather forecasts. It still doesn't go far enough to supplant the Google Now service it emulates. Same for the Smart Settings suite, which lives on the leftmost home screen and offers automatic functions based on your location. It's nice to have your phone turn on Wi-Fi automatically when you get home, for instance, but it doesn't do much more than that. And in my testing, it had trouble knowing when it was and wasn't home. This is non-final software, so hopefully that'll improve with time. And speaking of improvements, while this skin looks a lot like previous generations, well, if it were a car, I'd say it drives different. While the G3 often felt like it was overburdened trying to push too many pixels and getting really hot doing it, the G4 is solid and slick in everything from the lock screen animations to the dual window functionality. Thoughtful features like the notification toggle and resizable keyboard are still here. Also, LG has thrown in more color than last year and softened some of the previous version's sharper edges. On the whole, I like these changes, but I also think the skin lacks cohesion. It feels like I'm using one phone one second and another the next. At the end of the day, I don't think the LG UI brings enough benefit that I'd choose it over, say, stock Android. But it's also pleasant enough that I wouldn't go out of my way to replace it either. The LG UI is fine. Nothing more, nothing less. If you're looking to be impressed, look no further than the camera. The specs tell us it's a 16-megapixel sensor with an f1.8 aperture and a 1/2.6 sensor size, optically stabilized across 3 axes to correct for up to 2 degrees of motion. And the result of all that lingo vom is this: excellent photos. As Adam Lane noted in a Pocketnow feature post, the G4 isn't without the usual smartphone handicaps, namely digital noise and aggressive artificial sharpening, but these defects really only show up beyond 100% zoom. At normal sizes, the G4 camera performs admirably even against the fabled king of smartphone cameras, the Lumia 1020. colors are rich, with good dynamic range and contrast, and the wide aperture combined with optical stabilization means that even as the sun gets real low, the camera keeps its cool instead of hulking out. In a near-dark room, I shot the same photo with 5 phones on automatic settings, and the G4 produced the best of the bunch. For a quick photo, you can double-click the volume down button to launch and snap, but with such a short time to get focused, these shots aren't the greatest. To really fine-tune for exactly the picture you're looking for, LG gives you the most elaborate suite of manual controls we've seen on Android out of the box, complete with a level gauge, histogram, and RAW support. So any effect you can dream up, you can probably execute. The luster fades a little bit in video mode. It's not bad, but in Full HD, the autofocus and exposure tend to wander a bit. Colors get a little washed out, and the frame rate is kind of choppy too. The G4 does offer UHD recording and a slow-mo mode, for what it's worth. Switch on over to the front, and, well, I can't speak for Adam Lane, but this is definitely the best selfie I've ever taken. Whether it's thanks to the 8-megapixel resolution, the beauty face post-processing, or the ease of taking a photo with a hand gesture, the G4 has become one of my favorite selfie snappers. Combine that with the quick response time and easy-to-use viewfinder on the main shooter, and you've got a smartphone camera that outstrips much of the competition. Bravo, LG. We've tested the G4 on T-Mobile US between New York and Boston for a week, and as a phone, it's great. The slight curve of the chassis combines with that soft leather backing to make the G4 very comfortable to talk on, and reception seems to be on point, with T-Mobile's network only disappointing in super dense urban areas like Midtown Manhattan, or very rural settings like the Blue Hills Reservation in Massachusetts. For conference calls, the speakerphone's rear firing placement is a bummer, but at least it's loud. And that goes for music and sound effects in games too, which the Snapdragon 808 processor runs with aplomb. Any concerns I may have had about the 808 vanished by the end of my first day with the device. It's very smooth. Really though, most modern processors can run even high-demand games. The real performance measure is in the daily grind, how it feels on the day-to-day. Here, the G4 shines in most areas, but despite its 3 gigs of RAM, it suffers in memory management. Put simply, and crudely, multitasking on Android Lollipop sucks, because apps left in the background are often forced to close or hibernate if you do almost anything else in the foreground, which obviously has implications for everything from fitness trackers to podcasting apps. This isn't LG's fault, it's Android's problem, but this is an Android phone, and it's too frustrating not to mention. That aggressive memory management doesn't do much for battery life either. While I was able to get to about 4.5 hours of screen on time over an 8-hour day, that hasn't been consistent, probably thanks to phantom apps sucking up milliamps in the background. When I got into a habit of closing all background apps on a regular basis, battery life improved. Do this, and the G4 battery will almost definitely last you a full day. While it's handy to be able to swap out that battery, it'd also be convenient to fast charge it, as you can on most new phones. Sadly, there's no quick charging built into the G4, so you'll have to wait about 1 hour and 45 minutes to take it from 0 to a full tank while powered off. Despite those shortcomings, the LG G4 is modern, it's powerful, and it comes in trims for the showy as well as the conservative. It retains the customizable hardware that many of its competitors have left behind, and it packs a whopper of a camera. If you're looking for an alternative to the Galaxy S6 that doesn't sacrifice photo quality, or you want a phone that lets you change up its look while you're swapping in a fresh battery, the G4 is the smartphone for you. And it's almost certainly the best LG smartphone of all time. For more on the LG G4, check out Adam Lane's camera shootout at Pocketnow, and be sure to stay tuned here on YouTube for our Galaxy S6 and HTC One M9 comparisons coming soon. Till next time, this has been Michael Fisher with Pocketnow, Captain Two Phones on Twitter, grateful that leather isn't just for motorcycles and Motorola's anymore. Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you next time.